So I'm Alistair Douglas. I'm a bereaved parent of 4.5 weeks now. We had a baby boy, Hope. He was £7, 10.5 ounces. I suppose we'd been trying to have a family for best part of 4 years. We tried ourselves naturally, as you do. We then got into the IVF programme through EFREC in Edinburgh. They were fantastic, and that really helped us. That was October 18 we got into that. So we then knew that roughly we'd be starting in August 2019, which actually was actually spot on in the end. It was a lucky one, but we actually got an implanted egg, so we knew by Christmas of 2019. We were phenomenally lucky, so from December, early January, we had a 7.5 week scan, as you do in IVF, and then discharged as a normal pregnancy. So kind of cheers around the family, which was fantastic. We were able to kind of begin to, well, certainly close family, we told. And Joe's pregnancy from there was just fantastic. 12-week scan. Obviously, just to throw spanner in the works, COVID was then, lockdown started, and there's a few of the midwife appointments I couldn't make, but Joe would come back pretty excited and just say, oh, well, I heard the heartbeat and all this sort of stuff. And then we got to due date on the 25th of August. Again, everything was fine. 41 weeks we went in. In fact, it was 40 weeks actually. We had they weren't sure, maybe measuring a little bit small, so we went in, had a scan, and that all checked out, and they just maybe thought the head was engaging, getting ready for the natural birth. Sadly, on 4th of September, so 41 weeks and 4 days, we went in. Joe was a bit concerned about the baby's movements, and we got the heartbreaking news that actually the baby's heart had stopped beating. So, I mean, at that point we just felt lost, literally hopeless. I think the initial impression was, why us? Then it was, why anyone? And then why our baby? I mean, we just didn't have the opportunity to see the world, see us. The doctors were fantastic with us, I have to say, because the immediate reaction was, oh my goodness, we need to get this baby out. We can't go home. They talked us through that. We ended up going home. Obviously, I had to tell parents, which was just, I mean, it was just devastating. So the next morning, in for 10 o'clock, the agreed appointment, and the discussions were, does Joe have a cesarean section? Does she have a natural birth? And whys and wherefores of maybe having a natural birth it would have had less of an impact if we wanted to have future pregnancies. So it was considered, but I mean, we did come to the conclusion that a cesarean section was the best way, in inverted commas. I mean, it's kind of ripping off a plaster. It be easy for me to say when I wasn't going through that process, so I was very keen to support Jo in whatever she decided to do. And as much as I've said that we had a baby boy, at this stage we didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl. So we went in for a cesarean section, and I kind of thought in my head, or a picture in my head always comes up when Jo sat on the operating, in the operating theatre, nurses and doctors all over the place, and her just looking just so small, so kind of sad. And we actually, Jo, just unbelievable, had the epidural, had the injection to numb her body, and we sat there, or lay there, talking about our dog. So Trevor is our miniature golden doodle, and he's got us through a lot over the past few weeks, but for those 45 minutes to an hour, there was still that hope, I think, in the back of both of our minds that there might be a cry, there might be that time where actually maybe they got it wrong. Obviously that didn't happen, sadly. Jo was taken through to recovery, and bless him, the midwife who was with us for the whole day came through and said, do you want to meet your baby? And we're just like, right, yeah, okay. And it was at that point we found out we had a baby boy, which was, I mean, amazing. So he was swaddled up. We didn't cuddle him, we weren't sure about that, but given on the Friday night we probably didn't want to meet him at all. it was quite something to meet him. We had decided on a name the night before. We kind of came up with Hope because we sat there at midnight with a cup of tea in hand, bawling our eyes out. Well, actually, that's not true. We weren't bawling our eyes out because we were so numb that we couldn't actually cry, and that was the bizarre feeling. And even on the Saturday, all through that day, we didn't cry because, well, I don't know why. Actually, I do not know why. But meeting him, I mean, it was like a wild animal. I don't know where it came from. Pit in my stomach, just erupted in tears when we met him. The poor lad he was a spitting image of me. I mean, even I could see that. And it was the first baby I'd ever met that I just thought, actually, it's really quite cute. My mum and dad had warned Jo, my wife, certainly, that be warned that Alistair was the ugliest baby they'd ever seen. And they were the parents of me, obviously. But this wee lad was just amazing, and just heartbreaking that he was there. He was full size. We just wanted him to open his eyes, but sadly not. Jo was amazing, recovered. I mean, bear in mind at this stage, Jo still couldn't feel her toes, so it was still very much early days in that. We let Hope go into his crib, and then the recovery process continued. We were out in Livingston, the hospital there. They put us in a fantastic family room. I mean, which, to be fair, when you walk in there, it is very much a hospital room, and you think, geez. We didn't think about it being home, but it was home for 2.5 days, and what a bubble that was for us. They were fantastic. So the Sunday morning, we thought, you know what, we need to get the grandparents in, because what I think is key to remember, or which we didn't really think about as much at that point, was we are parents. So we had to go through, or Jo had to go through the whole pregnancy. We went through the birth. I mean, that's everything that we would have gone through anyway. Sadly, just to make it through the other side. So the grandparents came in, and they were actually quite keen to meet Hope as well. So it was a pretty emotional reunion, and I said we didn't cry much on the Friday, Saturday, the Sunday. I think we were pretty. The floodgates opened, as you can imagine they would. And that Sunday we kind of got through it. It was a funny experience because every time we ate, strangely, after it we just burst into floods of tears. So I don't know what it was about eating, but you could feel it building in your body. And we are fortunate. We've spoken about this a number of times that we haven't had that grief in our lives ever, which, touch wood, we never do, but I'd never experienced that. And you still get that sick feeling at times. We've got pictures of Hope that we look at regularly. So that Sunday, we'd almost agreed on the Monday morning we would go if we could, and the doctors were actually fine with that. We probably could have gone on the Sunday, but actually a lot of things, as we look back, only 4.5 weeks, a lot of things they just run their course. So being in hospital, we contacted a lot of friends and family who were really excited. I had people phoning up my work saying, "Oh, is there any news? Don't put me through to Alistair because I just want to know what colour to buy," and things like this. So there were people that we had to tell. So we did that on the Sunday to leave all that bad news in hospital, and then we got back home to a very, very quiet, empty house, except for the dog, to be fair, on the Monday afternoon, and that was really tough because that was not expected. The Saturday morning, actually, before we do, just kind of going back, just thinking about it, the whole walking in with the baby cat or the baby seat, I'd done that on the Saturday to try and stop us to have to do it later on. The Monday afternoon was not the plan. Luckily, all the baby stuff we put into a room, we didn't have to deal with that, but that was a tough night, and I think immediately we thought, you know what, we just need to get away from home for a little bit. So we stayed at Jo's parents, went to my parents, which was nice, came back, and then you have to go through the awful thing of the funeral. So the Monday after, we arranged Hope's funeral, which you just sit there, and the overriding thing for those first 2 weeks especially, and even sitting here now, you just feel a bit numb about the whole situation. And it's not about us. It's that isn't why I'm here. It's not why Joe's here, and it's not why I'm here doing the video. It's actually about creating a legacy to remember my son. And he is my son, and he always will be. And he's my firstborn, and that's what makes it even harder. Listen, this is something that I don't want any other family to go through. Being our first and having gone through the 4-year journey that we had done, it's just been heartbreaking. So the funeral, I thought I'd cried quite a lot in the kind of 2 weeks beforehand, but the funeral, that was just unbelievable. I mean, we actually, because of COVID, we actually carried his little coffin into the crematorium, we bawled our eyes out for most of the ceremony as we would. I mean, we had some fantastic support throughout that, and it is horrible that something like this has had to happen to make us realise that how lucky we are. I mean, whether it's been friends, family, colleagues, work, they've just been incredible support to us all, to us too, and our wider family. So the journey continues. We are only 4.5 weeks, but I just think it's so important to talk about it. I've got this drive inside me now that I want other fathers to come forward. I think it's so important in this day and age that, listen, you go through it as a couple. My wife, Jo, and I are stronger than we've ever been, I think, because of this. But we can't forget the dads. I mean, because it's very easy. I've gone back to work over the past 10 days, and it's lovely. It's lovely to hear everyone is rooting for you. Everyone's asking after Jo, and I really want her to go back to work because they know Jo very well, and I want Jo to hear how much everyone is supporting us. But at the same time, they still think I'm incredibly brave for going back and incredibly brave for doing something like this. But actually, for me, it's not bravery. It's about making sure that there is this secret society we've talked with a number of people already from Held in Our Hearts that we just didn't know existed. With all due respect, we didn't want to know it existed, but we are here now, and we're gonna support as much as we possibly can. And if we can stop one family having to go through this, then this is absolutely what we're going to go for. And if we can change a few processes along the way, then that's really what we're going to target. We'd love to have a family in future. I think we'll have to kind of wait on that a little while. We'll probably need to get our own thoughts collected. We need to make sure bodies are healed. But we want little brothers and sisters for our wee man. So let's hope we can.